Please take off running. What I'm supposed to do. Good evening and welcome back to Trial Watch with Demetra. I am Demetra Lit all day, or as I like to call myself, Judge D Lit. And we are on part 4 of a legendary trial from 2002, Who Shot the Sheriff? Tonight we begin the testimony of the henchman. To know more about this trial, please check the description box. But in a nutshell, the guy to the left was the sheriff, very corrupt, a ne'er-do-well, Mr. Can't Get Right. He lost his election, and he didn't understand how someone would dare try to unseat him from his position of power. Once he lost that election, he put into the works a plan to have his robber and the man who was supposed to take his place. He had won the election. Newly elected Sheriff Derwin Brown was set to be assassinated in the front yard of his driveway. Newly appointed Sheriff Derwin Brown, lost his life that day, and that is the reason why Sidney Dorsey sits in front of us now in this trial. We start tonight the testimonies of the henchmen. Now, we know he hired 4 different people to pull this off. And to the right is the first one we're going to hear from is Paul SKYERS. Okay. It's a 2-part testimony for Paul SKYERS. It should be very interesting just by the way he's sitting there looking on that stand. It says a lot. Let me welcome back to the Lane Jury Box, M. Renee, our bailiff Winter, Kurt Vixen, the Lane Jury Box honorary member. We're going to get her one day to become an official member. Let's see. I should have my Little Lane. I can get my Little Lane Jury Box mug. Miss Steph 219, official juror. Oh, I can't talk. I'm not going to be a blonde next week, I promise. Let's see. Foot Soldier, good evening. Welcome back to the Lane Jury Box. Good evening, official Lane Juror, Sagittarius Brand. Good evening, official juror, VA Sagittarius. Good evening. Welcome back, Tweety, official juror. Oh, I had this hat on yesterday, too. I'm on my blonde ambition tour. Oh, so y'all are up in here. It has been going good. Last night we finished the testimony, the 2-night testimony of what was her name, Shirley McMichael, and I must say I hope everybody has recovered sufficiently. Last night the jury box was in the uproar, a state of panic, a state of disbelief, a state of, it just got kind of tough in the jury box last night. So thank God that testimony is over. If you missed it, if you want to know what had the jury boxes in such an uproar, check out the playlist. It's called Legendary Trials, Who Shot the Sheriff. All of the videos are in numerical order on the playlist. Yes, I'm on my Blonde Ambition tour. Yes. Y'all, I gotta, hopefully I have y'all this weekend. I will be here all weekend. Okay. And I'll probably be on the other side, but because it's Valentine's Day, I think tomorrow is actually the Valentine's Day, right? I'm thinking that we're gonna do tomorrow we're gonna finish off our live reactions, the celebrity arrest videos and body cam. Tomorrow we got the video for Kim Zolciak and her husband with some shenanigans. So we're gonna watch that tomorrow. It should be interesting. But I'm thinking for this Valentine weekend, we're gonna do What's Love Got to Do with It. And it's gonna be body cam and arrest videos, reactions with couples. I think that'll be interesting. You was just uncomfortable? No, it's not gonna be the other side all weekend. I can't find nothing on the other side that's that interesting. Oh, look at how Sergeant at Arms made his step in the house. Now, y'all know, just a side note, as we get started, y'all hit the like. Y'all know, I got this necklace with this heart, and I got this ring. And I got a card, and I got some candy, and I got an order coming in. I think it's gonna get here next week. I got me a few outfits, some sandals. So my honey just really did it up. Shout out to my honey, okay, Mr. Lit All Day. Mr. Lit All Day, if you're seeing me right now, I love you, honey. Welcome back, Captain Smith. Official juror. Oh yeah, he just done himself. Oh, my nails. These are my. I should have changed it over to my pink ones. I'm gonna change them over to my pink Valentine nails. But this is the black and white ones that I did with the roses and the hearts and Betty Boop. I could have did it better, but this black with my decals on them, it was kind of hard. Oh, I gotta tell Mr. Little Lane, y'all love him too. No, I stopped doing the baking soda nails because they was just like I stopped doing those. I think I got, I started doing, like, now my big thing is the gel, the tips, the full cover tips, and I love the gel nails, right? And I've been ordering a lot of stuff. I need to show y'all my little sheet with my nails. Jill said I need to do that, and I should, because I've been getting a whole lot of, like, the stuff that you put on the nail accessories, like the powders and stuff. So I think I'm gonna show y'all this stuff. And I gotta show y'all the game thing, because baby, I've been winning them gift cards on my little game. All mine be for Sephora, but right now I'm working on one so I can take my honey out to this Texas Roadhouse. But you still do acrylic. The acrylic is just too strong. That's why I don't do it. I'm living my best life. I hope Connie, if you catch this on a replay, because I know you very much so watch the replays. I hope we see you tonight, but just know that you are in our thoughts here in the jury box. Okay, if you know, you know. Last night I did a poll and I didn't read the poll results. Okay, so the poll said, Is this line of questioning for Shirley McMichael when she was under the cross-examination, is it making you one? Is it changing how you feel or how you look at her as far as her honesty and her character? The first option was no, not at all. The second option was yes, I'm starting to look. Now I know she'll lie about some things. And the third one was I'm starting to give her the side eye. And the one that the one that you guys picked on the overalls, because I can't talk. The general consensus on that, the one that had the most votes was okay. So that pretty much lets you know that the defense did what they job as far as to make her questionable, as not so much as far. I think we didn't think she was so much lying about the sexual exploitation, right? But about her character as far as will she just tell the truth all the time? And no, she was stretching the truth and bending some things at times. But anywho, we are finna get off into the hired henchman, okay? Let's get into this testimony because we want to get it all in. Please hit the like if you're new around here. Please stick around, check us out, drop down in the chat, which we call the Lit Lane Jury Box, and consider subscribing. Okay. Oh, this is why y'all don't see it.
To you is a stipulation of the parties. A stipulation is an agreement by the parties as to a particular fact that is both sides agree to.
Don't give Winter too much.
The state of Georgia and the defense hereby stipulate that on Saturday, September 23, 2000, the cellular telephone call made from the cellular telephone of Patrick Cuffey to the home telephone of Sydney Dorsey occurred at 9:46 p.m. So stipulated, and it's signed by both sides. All right.
Oh my God, cut out the mushy.
This is one of those things that happens. Like I told you, it's not perfectly scripted out like a TV show. This is a real case. And sometimes we have stops and starts, and that just happens sometimes. So if you'll just be patient with us for a minute. And by the way, I'm not surfing the net. Okay. I stay in touch with my office, my husband, and I watch what's being said. So that's what I'm doing up here.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this court and jury on the issue pending will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I will.
Take your hand down, state your name, please, sir.
Paul SKYERS,
Mr. SKYERS, how old are you, sir?
37.
Don't give me a specific address, but generally, where do you live?
In the Gwinnett County area
Okay. And how long have you lived in the Gwinnett County area?
since October of 2000.
Directing your attention back to December of 2000, would you have been living in Gwinnett County at that time?
Yes.
How large of an individual are you, sir? How tall are you and how much do you weigh?
Welcome back, December, baby. You came right in time.
5'4",
Good to see you.
approximately 140 pounds.
140?
Yeah, 140.
Have you ever weighed 240 pounds? I'm not being facetious. Have you ever weighed
No, sir.
240 pounds?
No, sir.
Have you ever weighed significantly more than you weigh at this time?
The highest have been is 156.
Okay. Now, do you know an individual by the name of Patrick Cuffey?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Patrick Cuffey?
Met Patrick
In
Cuffey on while doing security.
Tell you what we need you to do, the acoustics in this room are not the best, so if you could lean just a little bit forward, speak into the mic, sir, okay?
Sure.
How do you know Patrick Cuffey again?
Patrick Cuffey and I met at roughly around October of '92 on Fairburn Road while he was working for SID and I was working for another security company.
When you say SID, what is SID?
Security Investigation Division, or
Wait a minute. Why y'all saying that? I think my honey, Mr. Lit All Day, is like 5'4". If Mr. Lit All Day is even 5'4", that might be a stretch, okay? So shout out to the little man. And just another sidebar, it smells so good up in here right now. My son, Junior Lit All Day, he up in there cooking. He made he doing shrimp baked potatoes. So he did the shrimp already, fried them in the skillet and stuff like that, or whatever you call it. And now he doing the finna take the potatoes out the oven. He up in here hooking it up. Okay, stay in order, Demetria. Okay.
Or Sid Inc.
Okay. And are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, I am.
Do you see Mr. Dorsey in this courtroom here today?
Sent to in the light colored suit.
The gentleman right in the middle of the five?
No, gentleman next to the gentleman in the dark colored suit, in the blue suit.
Starting with this gentleman right here is number one, and counting all the way over, which would be
Third on the left.
third individual.
Third individual on the left.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant, Mr. Sidney Dorsey.
All right, the record so reflects.
Did Mr. Dorsey own SID?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And did you have occasion yourself to go to work for SID?
Yes, I did.
Pursuant to that, did you come into contact with Sidney Dorsey?
Yes.
How long did you work for Sidney Dorsey's company?
On and off for approximately 6-7 years.
Are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of Melvin Walker?
Yes, I do.
Who is Melvin Walker and how do you know him?
Melvin Walker was employed by Sid Inc., I think in 95 or somewhere around there.
And how long did you actually work with him at SID?
Approximately 3 years.
Okay. Are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of David Ramsey?
Yes.
How is it that you know David Ramsey?
David Ramsey is a childhood friend of Patrick Cuffey, who, when visited Atlanta area, that's how come I met him.
Okay. Directing your attention back to the year 2000, did you have occasion to come into contact with David Ramsey?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall where David Ramsey would have been residing during that period of time?
He would reside with at Patrick Cuffey's home.
Okay. Now, were you present at or about the home of Derwin Brown on the evening of December 15th, 2000?
Yes, I was.
And were you involved in the planning of the attempt and the actual murder of Derwin Brown?
Yes, I was.
How is it that you got involved in that particular plan, sir?
The plan transpired basically when Cuffey called and said, meet me at the house.
When you say, okay, did you go to his house?
Yeah, I went to his house.
Do you recall when this would have been?
To the best of my knowledge, somewhere in August, end of August.
Okay. Did you work for the re-election campaign for Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, very limited though.
When you say very limited, describe very limited, sir. What would you have done on Mr. Dorsey's behalf?
Would assist Patrick in putting up signs, and that would basically be it.
Had you worked in Mr. Dorsey's campaign back in 1996?
Yes.
What would your efforts have been back in 1996, sir?
The same thing, putting up signs, telephone bank, and various numerous of any things dealing with the campaign, such as issuing out flyers and such forth. And
Which campaign would you have worked harder on? The one in 1996 or the one in 2000?
the one in 1996.
Okay. After the 1996 campaign, did you go to work for the Dekalb County Sheriff's Office?
I applied, but the application was denied.
Okay. And when you applied, was Sidney Dorsey the sheriff of Dekalb County?
Yes, he was.
Okay. The meeting you have described or began to describe, you said you got a call to go to Patrick Cuffey's house. Did you go to his house?
Yes, I did.
Would that have been after Sidney Dorsey had lost the runoff election to Derwin Brown? Yes. Do you recall how long after the runoff election that meeting would have been at the home of Patrick Cuffey, sir?
I'm not going to guess, but it couldn't be more than about 2 weeks after.
Do you recall what time of day that meeting would have been?
The meeting took place in the morning.
Okay. And did you come into contact with Mr. Cuffey at that time?
Yes, I did.
Did you come into contact with David Ramsey at that time?
Yes, I did.
Describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened at that meeting.
Basically, Patrick Cuffey called me 911 on the pager. He said, come to the house now. Got in a car, went. He says, let's take a walk. I have something I have to show you. We went to the end of the cul-de-sac. We cut through a little yard, somebody's yard, and we were by a pond. He came out with a note, and on that note, on a brown piece of paper.
A note?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
He came out with a
Here
note.
we go with another
and
note.
on that note was written, kill Derwin Brown. I looked at him. I looked at David. I says, where's this coming from? I said, the man in context, Sidney Dorsey. When I said the man, he said yes.
Okay, when you say he, who said yes?
Patrick Cuffey.
Was David Ramsey there at the time when this conversation took place?
Yes, he was.
Was Melvin Walker there at that time?
No, he wasn't.
Go ahead, continue to describe the meeting for the benefit of the ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
When he showed a note, and he immediately after my questioned him, where is it coming from and who is it coming from, and he acknowledged the man being Sidney Dorsey, he ripped the note up, gave each three of us a piece, and we chewed it up.
Why did you do that, sir?
He initiated, put the first piece in his mouth, so he was like, as a joke, stuck the other rest, chewed it up, and basically, started to walk out the cul-de-sac. So
Did you swallow the piece of paper?
No, I did not, sir.
Okay. Now, at some point, did you then, as a result of that, become involved in the planning to, in fact, take the life of Derwin Brown?
Yes, I did.
At some point, did Melvin Walker become involved in the planning as well?
Yes, he did.
When was it, to the best of your knowledge, after that meeting that Mr. Walker became involved?
Say roughly about 3 weeks after that, approximately.
Were you present when Mr. Cuffey would have approached Mr. Walker about the subject?
No.
Pursuant to the plan to take the life of Mr. Brown, was surveillance conducted?
Yes, it was.
Did you yourself ever actually participate in the surveillance?
The initial location of the residence, no. Patrick Cuffey came up with that. And then we had a general idea of where Mr. Brown's house was. But to gain access to his house, we took a couple of days, like a week, before we actually found the least accessible area to get to his house.
When you say we, sir, again, please be specific when you use the word we.
Patrick Cuffey, myself, David Ramsey, and Melvin Walker.
Did you have at that time personal contact with Sidney Dorsey?
Very limited contact with Mr. Dorsey. The only contact I came in with Mr. Dorsey during the planning process was when I came to the sheriff's office. I had gotten an application again in November of 2000, filled it out and turned it in. It was being fast-tracked, and Mr. Dorsey...
Don't get ahead of ourselves. Was that the only contact?
No, there were several other contacts.
Okay. Did you ever talk yourself with Sidney Dorsey about the plan to kill Derwin Brown?
No, Patrick Cuffey was the initial and the only go-between at that time, being consulted and being talked to Sidney Dorsey and relaying information to myself and David and Melvin Walker.
Okay. During that particular time, were you ever present at a meeting where Sidney Dorsey would have handed Patrick Cuffey a note saying kill Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
But you do recall a note?
A note.
And who supplied that note?
Patrick Cuffey supplied that note.
And you have testified as to that circumstance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was surveillance in fact conducted at some point on the home of Derwin Brown?
Yes.
who all participated in that surveillance?
Surveillance was conducted by myself, singly, then Patrick Cuffey and David Ramsey and Melvin Walker, who joined us later after everything was like set up to be, we find the least noticeable route to get there.
Okay. Before we get into the specific route that you found to get you there, were you expecting to receive something in return for your participation in this plot?
Expecting to receive something, yes. Basically, if Sidney Dorsey stayed in office, I would get a max civilian position
With the Dekalb County Sheriff?
with the Dekalb County Sheriff Department, based on my application going through and him personally telling me he's trying to get me on the morning watch before he leaves office.
Okay. Was this dependent upon Sidney Dorsey remaining in office?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did you in fact, during the course of your surveillance with the other individuals you have named, make a determination as to the best way to conduct surveillance on the home of Derwin Brown?
Yes.
Would you describe that for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please?
Surveillance was being done. His street was a dead-end street. There was only one way in and one way out. There was noticeable traffic and everything that was coming up that road. Yes, when you come off of Glenwood Avenue, if you're familiar with the area.
Okay, don't presume. I mean, remember, we're in Albany right now, so folks are probably not all that familiar with Glenwood Avenue.
They got to
But go
change the
ahead, sir.
venue.
Okay, after the main access road, there are several back roads that leads to his house. His street is on a dead-end street. So basically what we did, we found what looked to be a church, which was located behind his property. And there was a house in the corner. There were two churches on the property, one in the far back, and all this run off of 285, Highway 285, which is a major highway. You could see this church from the highway. You could see there was a fence.
Welcome back, Silky Black.
And there were ideas we started planning from then. So we came there. The best way was to get down there was to go by the church and come in the back and come down through the back of the house, through the woods, through the back of the house, where we could see the whole front of his house and the neighbor's house next to it. His house was the third house on the block to the end.
Okay. The access road that you have made reference to, did that run alongside 285?
Yes, it did.
Could you drive the car from that access road to the neighborhood where Derwin Brown lived?
Yes.
Was there a road connecting the access road to the neighborhood?
No, there were wood. It was a wooded area. So that was the best unseen for us not to be seen at that time.
Okay. Let me just show you, just get it down very briefly off the witness stand, sir, and show you a map that we have. Take exhibit number 74. And remember, if you would just step to the side, Mr. Skyers, so that all the jurors need to be able to see you, and remember to speak up. Would this be 285?
This is 285 northbound.
Speak up.
This is 285 heading northbound. The next exit up here is Covington Highway. You get off, make a right. You make your next immediate right. There's a Chevron gas station right there, which was being built at the time. It wasn't completed in construction. You turn down on that street, it's a little side street, and you made a left on a gateway, which is where the church sits.
Would this be one of the churches at the end of the Agape Way?
Yes. This is a large church, the first church you will come to. The other church sits
No.
about 100.
Presume this is Mr. Brown's house. Would the other church be farther up?
No.
Okay.
This is the church right here. This is the larger of the churches
Okay.
that was in the on the access.
This is the street, it has been identified as the street that Derwin Brown lived on. Where would be the wooded area you have referred to, sir? Again, the street comes here and goes up to about there somewhere.
Okay. Third house from the left.
Again, try to speak up.
Okay. Third house from the left. So I'm looking at this here. We had to make entrance to his house through these woods here. This was the last house which was vacant. There was nobody living there. This is where we posted at several times. Upon coming in, the car lights will be shut off. And once we get close enough to the wood, Patrick Cuffey, Melvin Walker, and Dave Ramsey would get out, enter through the bushes, and they would take a position here.
So he was the getaway
At times,
driver.
myself, I would have to get out the car, so I know the route that was leading up to the house. This is the neighbor next door house right here. So that's.
All right, have a seat back up on the witness stand, please, sir. Thank you. What time of day would the
Okay, so
surveillance
he is the
normally take
getaway
place?
driver. Now we know.
It would basically take place at night,
Do you recall what time at night?
roughly starting around 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Would it be dark out at the time that surveillance was conducted?
Yes, it was.
Who had participated in the actual surveillance of the scene and actually going on or about the house of Derwin Brown?
Patrick Cuffey, myself, Melvin Walker, and David Ramsey.
Okay. Were any weapons carried with you during the course of conducting the surveillance?
Yes.
What kind of weapons were used during the course of the surveillance, sir?
In the initial attempt, there was a 9mm being used.
When you say a 9mm, what is a 9mm?
A Smith & Wesson semi-automatic 915, 9mm. It's a handgun.
Go ahead, sir, I'm sorry.
And a Tech 9 semi-automatic, which was modified. When I use the word modified, which was suppressed to lower the velocity of the sound of the weapon making any noise.
Where did that weapon come from, the Tech 9?
That weapon came from me, myself.
How long had you had that weapon?
That weapon was in my possession for roughly about 2 years.
Did you make some sort of repair to that weapon in May of the year 2000?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the repair you made in May of 2000?
The weapon, at the time, I acquired it while working security at Atlanta Housing Projects. Walked up in some black male that was doing something, saw the security uniform, dropped the weapon and ran. The weapon was not functional. It was missing a firing pin and an extractor pin. The springs that made the weapon, had the charge to it, were weak. Those had to be strengthened. I purchased the firing pin from a pawn warehouse in Ellenwood off of 675. The extractor pin was ordered from Intratech in Miami, Florida, purchased by a check card from my bank account.
At that time, when you made the repairs to the weapon in May of 2000, was it your intention to use that weapon to kill Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Okay. Why did you repair the weapon, sir?
It was for my own personal use.
Did you want to use that weapon in the plot to kill Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Why not?
If Patrick Cuffey, under the instructions of Sidney Dorsey to end Derwin Brown's life, he should have then produced whatever we needed to conduct the murder of Derwin Brown.
Go ahead.
So I held on to the weapon as long as I could until Patrick Cuffey and David Ramsey had problems coming up with weapons to do the job.
To your knowledge, had Patrick Cuffey made attempts to locate another weapon to do the job?
To my best of my knowledge, yes, several people.
To your knowledge, did David Ramsey make attempts to locate a weapon for the purpose of killing Derwin Brown?
Yes, he did.
Were either of them successful in producing a weapon?
No, they weren't. The only thing Patrick came up with was a Grendel 380 pistol, 380 caliber semi-automatic pistol.
Okay. Did David Ramsey succeed in coming up with any weapons whatsoever, to the best of your recollection?
No, he didn't.
As a result of their failure to come up with weapons, did you volunteer the use of your Tech-9?
Yes, I did.
Did you want to keep your Tech-9 prior to the murder of Derwin Brown?
Yes, I did.
After it was decided to use that weapon in the commission of murdering Derwin Brown, was it your intent to still keep it?
No, sir.
Why not?
Being evidence, and think that weapon had no reason to be around me.
Were discussions ever had amongst the four individuals in question? And by that I mean yourself, Mr. Cuffey, Mr. Ramsey, and Mr. Walker, as to who was going to be the actual shooter?
The actual shooter came about by pulling straws. In the first initial pull, I ended up with a short straw.
What did that mean?
That means I would have to pull the trigger.
Go ahead, sir.
And I looked at them, said, nah. They did it again, and Patrick and Melvin Walker agreed to be front and back for the shooting. And eventually Melvin Walker took point after that.
When you say took point, what does that mean, sir?
He assumed the responsibility of being the trigger man.
Now, when surveillance was being conducted, would the 9mm handgun you have described be with the people conducting the surveillance?
Yes, it was.
Who would have the 9mm?
Patrick Cuffey would have the 9mm.
You have made reference to a 380 handgun. Would that be used when surveillance was being conducted?
Yes.
Who would have that weapon?
David Ramsey.
And who would have the Tech-9?
Melvin Walker would have a Tech-9.
Did you, as a result of the conversation with the others, what was your understanding as to which weapon was going to be used to shoot and kill Derwin Brown?
The Tech-9 was the primary weapon. The 9mm was the backup weapon. And the 380 was basically just there for any mishap that would happen.
Would the Tech-9 be in possession of Melvin Walker during the course of surveillance?
Yes.
How many times did you yourself actually participate in the surveillance?
Surveillance took approximately, each surveillance was also an attempt.
Describe or explain what that means, sir.
Once the area was secured, access was made, the path was set. Each time we went to that area, to the area of Derwin Brown's house, each surveillance actually was an attempt.
When you say an attempt, what do you mean?
If he showed between the hours of 10:30, 11:30, it would happen then. We approximately waited, I would say sometime a half an hour, 45 minutes, because Patrick Cuffey, he had detail work to do at Grady overtime. Melvin Walker had issues, so we had to leave the area by midnight, before midnight. They had to be to work at midnight, so everybody had to leave there approximately 11:30.
If Derwin Brown had come home or become vulnerable during that period of time, was it the intent to kill him at that time?
Yes, sir.
What was your role specifically in the surveillance?
I played two parts. The initial part was being at his house on 2 occasions. Not more
say
than.
at his house, be
At Derwin Brown's house on 2 occasions. Not more than 10 feet from his front door, in the grass, laying on my stomach, me and Melvin Walker.
You were in his front yard?
Yes, sir.
You were on the grass
Yes, sir.
near his front door?
About 10 feet. There was a white car parked outside on the street. I couldn't tell if it was running or not, but we were like next to the car.
In terms of this courtroom, considering yourself to be the front door of the house of Derwin Brown, in order to duplicate the distance between the front door and where you and Melvin Walker lay, should I walk toward you, away
Walk
from
away
you?
from me.
Tell me when to stop.
Keep going. Stop.
At that time, would there have been anything which would have obstructed your view and the view of Melvin Walker from the front door of Sidney Dorsey?
Say again, sir?
Was there anything that blocked your view of the front door of Mr. Brown's house?
No, sir. There were only maybe 4-foot shrubberies around the front of the house, and the white car provided enough cover for us.
Would you have been armed on those situations?
Yes, I was.
What would you have been armed with?
Semi-automatic 9mm.
Would Melvin Walker have been armed on those situations?
Yes.
What was Melvin Walker armed with?
A Tech 9.
Would David Ramsey and Patrick Cuffey have been present on those occasions?
Yes, sir.
What would they have been doing on those occasions?
On that occasion, Ramsey was in the car, and Patrick Cuffey was being the lookout.
Where would the car be?
The car would be on Agape Road.
Whose car would be used for purposes of surveillance?
My car.
How often would you estimate your car was used to conduct surveillance?
About 7-8 times.
How many times would you estimate you yourself participated in the surveillance?
About 6 or 7 times.
Now, were there occasions when you did not participate in the surveillance? Oh, wait a
Yes.
second, let me back up first. You said that you had a twofold role,
Yes.
and then you had described the first aspect of it.
Yeah.
What would be the second? I apologize, sir.
The
Go ahead.
second one was just plain being the driver, to take them to the scene and to pick them up whenever they called on the radio and leave.
When you say they, again, who is they?
Patrick Cuffey, Melvin Walker, and David Ramsey.
Called on what radio?
There were handheld radios that was used instead of using the cell phones to call back and forth to each other to talk. Whenever they were let out to go through the bushes to go to Mr. Brown's house, I would either stay in the parking lot or I would leave and go out the area for a few minutes, drive around, look for any units that might be driving up and down, or post myself in a position where I could not be seen, but I could see any units if they decide to patrol down that street or just come back there for any reason. So we had to keep in constant communication with each other via radios.
Where did the radios come from?
They came from Melvin Walker's security company.
Okay. And would you maintain one with you in the vehicle?
Yes, I would.
Who would have the other radio?
David Ramsey would have the other radio.
Going back to my previous questions, were there occasions or circumstances in which you did not participate in the surveillance?
I had excluded myself from 2 surveillance. I just gave Patrick Cuffey and David Ramsey my car. I told her I had to work that night. I couldn't leave. And they went on and try to do what they had to do.
Where were you working during that period of time, sir?
I was loss prevention officer for Ingles Supermarket.
Where is Ingalls Supermarket?
Ingles had several locations. The location I was working at the time was on Annistown Road. and North Deshaun.
Is that close in Gwinnett?
That's close in Gwinnett County.
Did you ever have occasion to work at another Ingalls store as a loss prevention specialist?
Yes, Wesley Chapel, Rockridge, and South Harrison, and there's a store in Ellenwood that I worked at.
Okay. Do you recall specifically the evening of December the 15th of the year 2000?
Yes.
The night Derwin Brown was shot and killed?
And basically, my day started.
No, I'm not asking you to get into it, just asking you, do you recall it?
Yes, I do.
Were you working that evening?
Yes, I was.
Who were you working for that evening?
I was doing a part-time job at Burger King on Panola Road.
Okay. The angles you have made reference to on Wesley Chapel, where is that exactly, sir?
That's on Wesley Chapel, across the street from the Kmart.
Again, remember, we're in Albany. None of these people know where.
Okay, Wesley
the Kmart
Chapel,
is.
Wesley Chapel Road is a busy intersection. It's an Ingalls supermarket. Behind the Ingalls is a Walmart. Across the street in the next plaza, there's a Kroger's, a Kmart, and deadly across the street is a club called MVP's.
Do you remember if you ever went anywhere near the Ingalls on the evening of December 15th of 2000 that you have just described?
Yes, I worked that store, worked the Ingalls on Wesley Chapel until roughly around 6 p.m.
Now, going back, you indicated that plans were made to commit this particular murder. At some point, were you present when some individuals were stopped, i.e. Mr. Cuffey and others, by Dekalb County police officers at Glenhaven Elementary School?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you present the night before when Mr. Cuffey would have left his vehicle at Glenhaven Elementary School?
No, sir.
Okay. You indicated certain modifications were made to the gun, the Tech-9. Can you describe, first off, the specific modifications that were made to that gun?
Basically, the weapon was to be silenced at minimum cost. Suppressor was bought and holes were cross-drilled into it. In turn, since it was like a strainer, it had, how would I explain this? We use Corningware, the
Pink Panther stuff?
Pink Panther stuff to push inside the barrel around the holes. A piece of PVC pipe was bought by Patrick Cuffey, some duct tape, O-clamp, rubber on the end, and all of that was fitted over the muzzle of the weapon.
Would this have been after the plan had been begun to kill Derwin Brown?
Yes.
Who would have actually participated in the modification of the gun?
Myself and David Ramsey helped a bit.
Where would you physically have done that?
We did it at Patrick Cuffey's house in the garage.
How complicated or difficult a process was it?
Not complicated in terms of trying to get the air that the gun push out, trying to get it dispersed within the Pink Panther stuff, and slowing the bullet to the round coming out of the weapon.
How long did it take you to actually modify the gun?
Roughly in about 2 days, and after Patrick Cuffey and David Ramsey tested it, it still needed more added stuff, but that wasn't sufficient enough.
When you say more added stuff, which stuff?
When it's added stuff, tried it first with the cross drill holes and the tape. That didn't work, and they went and bought the PVC pipe to slide over it and then tape it up.
So this was all a DIY project.
That's
Got
basically
it.
how it came out.
After the subsequent modifications were done to the gun, did it work as expected?
First round came out, sounded like a firecracker, like a little pow. You would step on a balloon or something of that sort. The next one came out, sounded like a 22, and then it elevated itself after that.
Now, was that gun used in conducting the surveillance after it had been modified?
Yes, sir.
Who would have been in possession of that gun during the course of the surveillance after the modification of the weapon?
Melvin Walker.
Tell us about December the 15th of the year 2000, sir. First off, were you working that day?
Yes, I was.
And again, where did you work and from when to when?
I worked at the Ingalls from 8 a.m. to roughly around 6 p.m. I had a shoplifter and a new officer that came in, and I showed her how to go take a warrant out down at Dekalb County at Memorial Drive. That brought me back to the store around 7:30. I showed her how to do the paperwork, and I left on my way to the part-time job at Burger King.
Now, let me ask you this. At any point, did you attempt to communicate with Patrick Cuffey? If you remember, and if you don't,
No,
that's fine.
I don't remember. I remember we spoke that day, but basically that was it.
What was your understanding as to what was going to occur that evening?
It had to be done that evening.
When you say it had to be done that evening, why is that?
Patrick seemed to be under a lot of pressure from Mr. Dorsey. When is this going to happen? When is this going to take place? When are you going to get this done? When Patrick called, first time I left work and I met him at the corner of Glenwood and Covington Highway at an Amoco.
Yes, sir.
I came out the car, went into the Amoco, got a pack of cigarettes.
Okay. Let's slow this thing down some. So I'm gonna have to get together the whole roadmap with everybody with their pictures on them. Sidney Dorsey is the one who's on trial. He is the one who was the sheriff for a long time. He was a sheriff for several years, uncontested, right? He was very corrupt in his county. He did a lot of different stuff wrong. The victim, he lost the election. Then he was doing all the corruption. He was the sheriff, went uncontested, unchallenged for years. Then comes along Derwin Brown. Derwin Brown ran against Sidney Dorsey. His whole campaign was about cleaning up the corruption in the sheriff's department. He won the election. When he won the election, Sidney Brown said, hell no, he wasn't going for none of that. So Sidney Brown, the ousted sheriff, got with Patrick Cuffey. Patrick Cuffey, actually, he had already gotten Patrick Cuffey a job with the police department. Patrick Cuffey was his right-hand man, his flunky, his do-boy. Patrick Cuffey is the one who put together the team of henchmen, which was 4 different guys. It was Cuffey, the one on the screen. It was the getaway driver that's on the stand right now. Okay. SKYERS, Paul SKYERS. And it was 2 other guys. I can't remember their names right now. Okay. So it was 4 hired henchmen. They didn't get paid any money. They didn't get promised any money. But if they pulled it off and assassinated the newly elected, the sheriff-elect, Derwin Brown, Sidney Dorsey, who is on trial now for the Erdem, he figured by getting him out the way, they would have to do a special election, and he would regain his job, his position, his prestige, his place where he thought he was supposed to be as sheriff. Okay? Now, at some point in the time, one of the henchmen, I don't know yet because they haven't testified it, but I seen the true crime story. But got caught up, not him on the stand, but I think it was the shooter. No, it was Patrick Cuffey. Anywho, that's getting me on the story. One of them got after the shooting, months after the shootings. And because he got caught and arrested, they left him in jail. Then he ratted out everybody, and that's how they ended up getting caught. Okay? So the only one who on trial right now is the actual mastermind, the ousted sheriff, Sidney Dorsey. They tried him for a whole plethora of corruption charges, and the main charge is murder for hire. Okay? Now, they had two of the other guys, the shooter and whichever one, they eventually will go to trial for the same case. The first trial, they didn't get convicted. They went to a second trial. Both of the other guys, I'll tell y'all the name of whom. They eventually, then when they went back to the trial the second time, that's when they got convicted and got life. I know for a fact that Patrick Cuffing, the right-hand man, the one who got the team together, he ratted. He got immunity. And I think SKYERS, the one on the stand as the driver, I think he got immunity too. Right. He wanted to clean up the corruption. Derwin Brown, he ran his whole campaign on cleaning up the corruption in the sheriff's office. Okay? So the only one on trial right now is Sidney Dorsey. Right now in this trial, only Sidney Dorsey. And this is the very first one of the 4 of the henchmen. Okay? The guy who got caught, did he just tell for no reason, or they had something on him? I guess the one who got caught was the Patrick Cuffey, and that's how he ended up getting immunity. He rolled on everybody. He rolled on 3 other people and the sheriff. Do you know if Shirley McMichael's bonding business stayed open after the sheriff was arrested? Don't know that. Okay, hey, Wobble. What question? And good to see you. This happened in 2002. The shooting happened in 2000. The trial is going on. No, this is a legendary trial, December, baby. This is a flashback trial. This is a legendary trial from Court TV because it was a big story, and one that's still talked about out there. So this trial that we're watching actually took place in 2002. Not now. But who shot the deputy? I'm not about to play with you. That was a good one. Wobble say they got a question. Who shot the deputy? Okay, stay in order. I understand. I don't like when they make deals. Okay, Living. I was curious about that because I knew they had connected her with the sheriff. I'm curious to see if she was able to or not. I don't know. I would have to try to look it up and see what happened, or if they have a story. But I didn't hear anything about that. What I can tell y'all from watching a true crime story. And mind you, don't forget, you guys, if you really want to delve into this and see it like in a narrative, like the story unfold, not just the trial, I put the link to the Tamron Hall, someone they knew on the wall. Okay, so you can go on the community wall for Trial Watch with Demetra, and you'll see the link. It's not too many. It's like 2 or 3 posts down, if that far. And it's the Tamron Hall episode, and it's real good. Oh, the wife of the deceased. I can't wait to hear her testimony. She was fired up. And the wife of the deceased, she didn't get any benefits because of some type of catch-24 or whatever. Catch-24. Some type of catch-22. Because Sheriff Brown was between the jobs, he had stepped down from his job that he had as the police officer, right? He wasn't working that job actively. He hadn't actually gotten officially sworn in and started his new job as sheriff. Because he got assassinated right in between, his wife didn't get any benefits. She died of a heart attack or something like that 5 years later. 5 years later, she died of like a heart attack. And Sidney Dorsey, the sheriff who on trial, his son got gunned down and killed like, I can't remember exactly how many years afterwards. She said back then, wait a minute. She said back then we didn't take check, but now we do. Well, she still had the company in well, she was talking about because she started the company in 96. The shooting happened in 2000, and she still had the company, obviously. Yes, Winter. She still had the company in 2002. Yes. So we know, thank you, Winter. So we do know she still had her bonding company at least 2 years after the actual shooting. I hope he had life insurance. Right, because he sure didn't get none of the job money. Uh-oh, I hear something. Okay. So we all pretty much together here. Let's get back into hold on. I did something. Boom. Okay. I did a thing.
We were communicating by cell phones, and Patrick pulled up.
What is it like?
It started to drizzle. I got in the car. He looked at me and said, it had to be done tonight. I looked at him. I said, I'm not with this. He left and he went to the house.
Okay, now hold up a second before we go any further. You said, if I understand correctly, you worked at Ingalls from 8 to 6.
Yes.
But you'd caught a shoplifter.
And I had to go to Memorial Drive to get a warrant. And
It was done after 6.
Yeah, that was done after 6.
Okay, and then you came back and helped someone else write up the paperwork?
Yeah, a new officer that was just starting to do the work, to show her what to do and stuff like that.
Okay. Where again is the Ingalls in relationship to the MVP?
Right across the street.
In terms of right across the street, how far from one location to the other?
About the length of this building.
When you say the length of this
The
building?
length of this room from.
There to there?
Yes, sir.
Did you go into the MVP yourself that night?
No, sir.
Did you know that Derwin Brown was at the MVP?
No, sir.
Did you know that there was a celebration commemorating his completion of sheriff's school at the MVP that night?
No, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, sir. You indicated that you had met briefly with Mr. Cuffey. He was under pressure. He left and went back to his house.
We went back to his house.
What did you do?
I went back to work at the Burger King. I sat there for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, if that long. I got in the car and he called. He said, we're ready.
When you say he called, who called?
Patrick.
When you say we're ready, if you know, who was he referring to?
He was referring to himself, David Ramsey, and Melvin Walker.
What did you do after receiving that phone call?
I went to the manager in the Burger King. I told him, listen, I got something important to do. I got to drop off these reports. And I got in the car and I went to the house.
The house, which house?
Patrick Cuffey's house.
Go ahead. When you got there, was Mr. Cuffey there?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Walker there?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Ramsey there?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall how each of them were dressed at that time?
Both Patrick Cuffey and Melvin Walker were dressed in full black fatigues. David Ramsey had on a camouflage shirt and some green jeans and some old sneakers. Everything the gentleman had on were to be dumped that night, or dumped if we ever had a chance, or if it ever took place.
When had that been discussed, sir? The planning on dumping the clothing? How is it you knew that?
That was basically discussed during the different meetings we would have at Patrick's house on Friday nights before we leave en route to Derwin Brown's house.
Did you have any sort of fatigues or similar clothing on yourself?
I had my work uniform. The only thing I did was change my jacket to a black leather jacket and got in the car. I had no intentions of getting out of the car.
Did you drive?
Yes, sir.
Which car would have been taken?
Burgundy Honda Civic.
Which route did you take to the area of where Derwin Brown lived?
The out explained from Patrick Scuffy's house, down River Road, left on Panthersville. Panthersville, right on Candler Road, left on the Highway 285, right 285 to Covington Highway. Make a right on Covington, a right by the Chevron gas station, and a left on Agape Road.
Was Patrick Cuffey in the car?
Yes, sir.
Was he armed?
Yes, sir.
Which weapon did he have?
He had the 9mm that belonged to me.
Was David Ramsey in the car?
Yes, sir.
Was he armed?
Yes, sir.
Which gun did he have?
He had a .380 Sound pistol.
Was Melvin Walker in the car?
Yes, sir.
Was Melvin Walker armed?
Yes, sir.
Which gun did Melvin Walker have?
The Tech 9mm.
Go ahead, sir. When you got to Agape Way, what happened?
When I got to Agape Way, pulled the car up like we've been doing for approximately 3 months. Pull up, shut the lights, they get out and run through the bushes.
I'll tell you what, you can step back. You don't need to go too far back, but just a little bit back on the microphone, sir, okay? And I need you to come closer, I'll do so, okay? Did all three of them get out?
Yeah, Patrick Cuffey, Melvin Walker, and David Ramsey got out the car.
Did you remain in the car?
Yes, I did, sir.
Did you have a walkie-talkie?
Yes, sir.
Again, move a little closer, okay? Did any of them have a walkie-talkie?
Yes, David Ramsey had the walkie-talkie.
What did you do at that time, sir?
To let them out the car, waited a few minutes until they were completely in the bushes, drove the car off, went around the church that was closest to the house, turned the lights on, and then came back out so they know I was leaving back out to go and park.
Did you leave the area at that time?
No, sir.
How far away did you drive at that time, sir?
The parking lot directly behind the house and the church parking lot adjacent to the house, the vacant house.
Yes, sir.
I was sitting no more than maybe 200 feet, 300 feet from the house, if that much. I wasn't sitting there for more than 5 minutes.
What happened at that time, sir?
Heard what sounded like a firecracker at first, and then I heard a series of shots. Then David Ramsey got on the radio and said, let's go, let's go, let's go. I cranked the car up, swung it around, and all three got in the car.
Did you ever get out of the car at all that evening?
No, sir.
Did you ever go on the property of Derwin Brown that evening?
No, sir.
Did you ever have in your possession a weapon at the home of Derwin Brown that evening?
No, sir.
Did you have the Tech 9?
No, sir.
Did you shoot and kill Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Go ahead, sir. They get back in the car. What happens next?
Melvin Walker left with the weapon. He came back with a weapon. With the adrenaline.
Okay, you said he left with the weapon and came back with the weapon. The same weapon he left with?
Yeah, the Tech 9.
Go ahead, sir.
He came back with the Tech 9. He got in the car. Patrick Cuffey is in the passenger seat in front. David Ramsey to the right behind Patrick, and Melvin Walker directly behind me.
Describe what happened next.
Because of the adrenaline and the heat of the weapon, the whole car got fogged up. It was like we couldn't see leaving Agape Road to make the left on Red Wing Road by the school to come across Austin Road, cross. By the time we got to Glenwood Road and Austin Road, the front was so fogged up, Cuffey had to be wiping off so I could see where I was going. We went back down by the old Omega building, got back on 20, and went back to the house.
When you got back to the house, were all four of you still in the car?
Yes, sir.
What was done at that time when you got back to the house?
Everyone immediately got undressed, got our clothes.
What happened to the clothes, if you know?
Don't know, sir.
What
Yeah.
did you keep your clothes on or did you change?
I kept my same clothes I had on when I got in the car.
Okay. Did the others take their clothes off?
Yes.
Did you see them do that?
Yeah, they started to undress in the garage area.
Did someone have a specific assignment of disposing of the clothes?
I would believe that was David Ramsey's job.
Did you have an assignment after the fact?
The only responsibility I took was dismantling the weapon and taking out the bolt and the firing pin.
Did you do so?
Yes, I did.
Did you take some of the weapon with you shortly thereafter?
Yes, sir.
At some point, did you become aware of the fact that the 380 was missing?
Yes, when we got back to the garage, on the way back through the woods, David Ramsey fell. Patrick Cuffey told me he had to pick him up and run the car. At that present time, the weapon could probably fell from David Ramsey.
Were attempts made to find the 380 in the car?
To the best of my knowledge, Patrick Cuffey put David Ramsey back out there that night.
Okay, no, I'm just saying in the car, in your car.
Yes.
Okay.
We pulled up the back seat. We looked onto the floor mats. We pulled up the seat. So, we looked between the seats. There was no weapon.
During the search of the car for
Hey,
the
Mike.
weapon, was everyone still there?
Yes.
What happened next?
Exactly, Mike.
I took the bolt, the firing pin, and the trigger with me that night. The barrel and the barrel extension, which is the modification, was left in the car.
How long after you returned to the home of Patrick Cuffey did you leave the home of Patrick Cuffey?
That took approximately 15 minutes, if that long.
Okay. Did you take the items you have described with you at that time?
Yes.
What did you do with those items?
It was raining, and those items was dropped in a drain in Gwinnett County across from a lake.
Who did that?
I did.
Did you subsequently have occasion to go there with any sort of law enforcement officers?
Yes, I did.
Who did you go there with?
GBI John Lang, and pointed to the area where I threw the bolt of the weapon with a firing pin down the drain.
Were you present when certain items
Wasn't.
Okay. Did you have communication with Mr. Cuffey after leaving his house that evening?
Yes, on going up the stairs in my house, the phone rang. About minutes after 12, and he asked me, was I all right? How was I feeling? I said, yes, I need to go to sleep, and I hung up the phone.
Did you ever go out and look for the missing 380 yourself that evening?
No, sir.
And what kind of charge were you arrested on?
I was arrested on a child abandonment charge, a warrant from Cobb County that was taken out in '96.
Was this after you had been questioned by Dekalb County police officers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you bonded out of Cobb County?
Yes, sir.
Who would have bonded you out?
Patrick Cuffey and Melvin Walker bonded me out.
After you got out of the Cobb County jail, and do you remember when that would have been?
That would have been right after Christmas.
Of the year 2000?
Of the year 2000. Yes.
Okay. After you bonded out, did you ride back to DeKalb County with Mr. Walker and Mr. Cuffey?
Yes, I did.
Did you stop and eat at any location?
Yes, we did. There was a Wendy's on the corner of Wendy Hill Road and South Cobb Drive.
Did you go in to eat?
Yes, we went in to eat.
When you say we, all three of you?
Coffee, Melvin Walker, and myself stopped.
Did a discussion take place at that Wendy's restaurant?
Yes, we did.
Would you describe that discussion for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please, sir?
The discussion was based on basically what had happened and that all of our stories should remain together. Being the fact that my information given to the police department after questioning had a hole in it. It had a time lapse of where I was during the time of 10:30 and 11:35 when Mr. Brown was killed. And being that I officers a lot of misleading information during the latter part of my day led, we discussed about that.
Were you discussing your alibis?
Yes.
Was Mr. Cuffey there when you were discussing the alibis?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Walker there when you were discussing the alibis?
Yes, sir.
After the first of the year, let me ask you this, had you applied to go to work for DeKalb County? For the sheriff's office?
Yes.
Do you remember when that would have been, sir?
The last application was sent in November.
Okay. Had you applied to go to work for the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office in May of the year 2000?
No.
Were you making any effort to go to work for the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office in May of 2000?
No, sir.
Were you planning to become actively involved in the re-election campaign of Sidney Dorsey in May of 2000?
Not that much actively, but to assist Patrick Cuffey, in his doing his full-fledged work for the campaign for the re-election of Mr. Dorsey.
What was your motivation for the work you did on the re-election campaign of Sidney Dorsey in the year 2000, sir?
Basically, wasn't motivated that much, but to just help out Patrick because I was always at work. I had my own agenda to deal with, and it wasn't a pressing issue to actually be 110% part of the sheriff department.
Did you have any reason whatsoever to want to see the death of Derwin Brown in May of 2000?
No.
Now, let me go back to the firearm in question, the Tech-9. You said you broke the gun down.
Yes, sir.
And took certain parts of it with you.
Yes.
What would have happened to the remainder of the gun, if you recall?
As I said, the bolt and the firing pin were dropped in a drain, which I showed to the GBI, and the firing hand that contained the trigger guard that contained the serial number were placed in a dumpster in a business district. It was wrapped in a red bandana and stuffed in a business district.
Would you have shown Mr. Lang the location of that dumpster as well?
Yes.
Now, was there I presume there's a barrel to this gun?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
What happened to the barrel and things of that sort?
To the best of my knowledge, it had to be disposed of with the clothes by David Ramsey.
Okay. So was part of the gun left at the house, and did you take the other part of the gun?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know what happened to either the clothes or to the remainder of the gun?
No, sir.
Did you come into contact with Sidney Dorsey in the year 2001? Specifically, early part of 2001, January or so? 2001,
yes.
after the murder?
Yes, sir.
What were the circumstances under which you came into contact with him?
Circumstances was the gentleman I had took the car from, I had a balance of like $900. He needed his money, so I gave it to him. At that time, that took funds from money that was to pay something else. So I called Patrick Cuffey. I says, I need some extra money, you know. He says, well, go ask the man, Sidney Dorsey. Don't call him, just go over to the house. So I says, okay, fine. I got in my car and I drove to Sidney Dorsey's house. Knocked on the door, he greeted me, and he asked me how I was doing. I told him fine. He says, are the police officers still harassing you? I told him yes. He asked me, I told him some misleading information as far as drugs was concerned and so forth. He said, don't do that. And I explained to him the situation with the car and the money that I just spent. Told him I needed a loan. He went in the back of the house. He came out with $1,000 cash and he handed it to me. And I told him, listen, you'll get it back in 2 weeks because that's how much time I needed to cover it.
Did he have to go to a bank or an ATM machine or anything of that sort to get the $1,000 in cash?
No, sir.
When you say he went to the back room and then came back with the cash, how long did it take him to leave you and come back with the money?
About 5 minutes, roughly.
Describe David Ramsey's physical appearance in December of the year 2000.
Long hair.
How long was his hair?
About shoulder length.
Had he had his hair that way since August of the year 2000?
Yes, it was basically in braids 90% of the time.
To the best of your recollection, on or about the 23rd of September of the year 2000, would his hair have been in the fashion that you have just described it?
Yes, sir.
You have relatively short hair.
Yes, sir.
Did you have the same length hair in September of the year? How long was your hair at that time, sir?
Clean cut, just the same.
Okay. And was your hair the same way in December of the year 2000?
Yes, sir.
You indicated at an earlier time in your testimony that at some point you had weighed how much more than you do now?
Approximately 152.
152?
Yes.
Okay. How much did you weigh on December 15th of 2000? And I don't know if you stepped on a scale, but just an approximation, sir.
Approximately, I've been at 140, 145 for the past 8-9 years.
Okay. Do you remember before the murder ever being in a park on Columbia Drive or off of Columbia Drive?
Yes, we had a meeting there one night, Patrick Cuffey, myself, and Melvin Walker. We all got into Melvin's Walker SUV, a green Expedition, and we drove to the park. And Patrick was bringing instructions, like always, from Sidney Dorsey, telling us we need to choke him out. And he was just the go-between and stuff. Then all of a sudden.
Okay, well, hold up. Was Mr. Ramsey there as best you can recall?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so the four of you are there.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the approximate time of day when this would have occurred, sir?
As I say, about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, and you are in Mr. Walker's vehicle?
Yes.
What happens when you're in the park?
Lights came in the park. We didn't know who lights they were. So we sent the two, Patrick Cuffey and Melvin Walker, who were peace officers, to go investigate. When me and Melvin Walker kind of like just walked off into the dark.
You said you and Melvin Walker?
Me and David Ramsey just walked off into the dark and just stayed out of sight. Patrick Cuffey and Melvin Walker spoke to some police officer, I don't know who it was, and the officer left.
Did you actually overhear any of that conversation?
No, we were too far away.
Okay. Now, directing your attention to March of 2001. At some point, did you have communication with an individual who identified himself as a lawyer for Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, I did.
Were you invited to a meeting at a lawyer of Sidney Dorsey's office?
They had a meeting. Yes, I was invited.
I don't go into specifics, but were you invited?
Yes.
Did you go?
No.
Were you invited to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in downtown Atlanta?
Yes, I was.
Who would have invited you to the meeting at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in downtown Atlanta?
Later. By the name of Ms. Fisher for GQ magazine.
Did she actually call you herself?
Yes, she did.
And did you attend the meeting at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Atlanta?
No, I didn't.
After this particular, I guess that would have been in late March of 2001, did you have further contact with Sidney Dorsey later in the year in 2001?
Yes, I did.
Please describe that, please, sir.
Basically, my concealed weapon permit was expired. I was getting to be expired, and I needed to still being able to carry a firearm. And I went to his office, showed him, typed it up, he signed it for me, and that was basically it.
Was he your employer?
I'm sorry, I
think I
keep
was
doing
off that
stuff.
day,
I'ma stop.
and it
I'ma
was
stop.
shorthanded.
I'ma stop. I'm trying to
I
get
didn't show up for a bank in East Point.
My bad.
And Patrick called me, said, Sidney, need for you to go to work, to go cover a bank in East Point, and I went. Then Melvin Walker came and relieved me later on that evening.
Who relieved you?
Melvin Walker.
Okay. Now, were you a DeKalb County employee at that time?
No, sir.
Have you ever been a DeKalb County employee?
No, sir.
Were you ever actually hired by the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office?
No, sir.
Did you have contact with Melvin Walker during the course of the year 2001?
Yes, sir.
Would you describe that contact for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please, sir?
Basically, after the 9/11 incident, things got slow in Atlanta temporarily, so I needed to supplement my income. Melvin Walker had a security company, so what better person to call and said, listen, I need work 3 or 4 hours a evening, and I worked for him for a couple of weeks.
At or about that time, was Patrick Cuffey also arrested in regard to the charges relating to the shootout in front of his house in March of 2001?
Yes, he was.
Did you ever discuss that with Melvin Walker?
Yes.
And what would have been the nature of those discussions, sir?
The nature was,
All right, Mr. Clegg, please proceed.
Thank you, Judge. If you would, sir, just go on ahead and relate the subject of those discussions you would have had with Mr. Walker.
Basically, the conversation with Mr. Walker was after Patrick was arrested, was, DeKalb County has no evidence, all right? If we pool our resources together with all the lawyers, we can railroad them or basically overpower them out of even bringing any charges on anyone as far as whatever they had.
And how many times would you have had such discussions with Mr. Walker?
We had 2 discussions.
Did you ever have any communication with Sidney Dorsey during this period of time?
Yes. I basically, when Patrick was arrested and we found out how much his lawyer's fee was, he was short about $5,000. And I called Sidney and told him I needed to meet him at his wife's campaign office. And I went then to ask him what kind of assistance could he give to Patrick in that case. He then in turn said he will see what he could do. His wife offered her help, but he in turn told me, he's already up to his neck in over $100 and something thousand in legal fees, that he could do very little. I said then, okay, then whatever you have, I will send Patrick's brother to come and collect it, and we'll try to get the rest of the money together. I had contact with him then, that was it.
Any other contact with Mr. Dorsey?
No, after then, that was it.
Now, at the time when you had that conversation with Mr. Dorsey, was Patrick Cuffey in custody?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever get out of the car on the evening of December the 15th of the year 2000?
At Mr. Brown's house or otherwise?
Well, obviously you got out of the car at some point, I suppose, sir, but at Mr. Brown's house, yes, sir.
Yes, no, sir.
Okay. Did you ever have the Tech 9 with you on that evening?
No, sir.
Did you ever take up a position outside the home of Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Did you ever fire the Tech 9 on that evening?
No, sir.
Were you the getaway driver?
Yes, sir.
Were you anything else?
No, sir.
Did you have occasion to talk to the district attorney and other representatives of the district attorney's office in DeKalb County in late November of last year?
Yes, sir.
How is it that you came about to talk to them, sir?
I received a phone call from Patrick, and he said I needed to go see his lawyer. I was working. I said, for what? He says, if I don't go and see the lawyer, your job won't mean squat. I thought about it. I still went on working. Evidently, I asked him, why do I need to see him? He says, trust me on this one. When he said that, first question I asked him, I said, do I need to wear whites? Whites meaning it's cold in the jailhouse, so you automatically put on white long johns if you know you're going to be arrested or you're going to be for something. So he says, no, don't worry about that. Just come down. And that's when I got the directions from the other officers, investigators, to meet at Rockdale.
Did you in fact go to Rockdale?
Yes.
Did you have occasion to see Mr. Cuffey in Rockdale?
I saw him briefly.
When you say briefly, how long is briefly?
We spent about 30 minutes with his lawyer sitting down, and he explained to me what he had done. And
When you say what he had done, what do you mean?
He had basically told the truth about what happened. That was about the investigation that was having investigators tied up for so long.
Was his attorney with the two of you when you spoke?
Yes, he was.
Did he tell you what to say to the police?
No, sir.
Has he ever told you what to say to the police?
No, sir.
Has he ever told you to implicate or finger Melvin Walker?
No, sir.
Has he ever told you to implicate David Ramsey?
No, sir.
Has he ever told you to implicate Sidney Dorsey?
No, sir.
Did you talk to the police
Yes, I did.
that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you receive an immunity deal whereby you would not be prosecuted for your role as being the getaway driver in the murder of Derwin Brown?
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to the police and to representatives of the district attorney's office since then?
Yes, sir.
How many times would you estimate you have talked to us, sir?
Well, about 5 times, that much.
To the best of your recollection, did you ever tell John Lang you were there when Sidney Dorsey gave a note to Patrick Cuffey saying, "Kill Derwin Brown"?
No, sir.
Did John Lang ever ask you about a note?
To the best, I don't remember.
Okay. But you have never had such a discussion with Mr. Lang to the best of your recollection? You talked to Mr. Morgan, Mr. Petrie, and Mr. Harvey. Did you tell them you had met with Derwin Brown, or not with Derwin Brown, but with Sidney Dorsey when he asked Patrick Cuffey to kill Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Have you ever told that to any representative of either the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office or the DeKalb County Police?
No, sir.
One moment, please, Your Honor. One last question, sir. The contact that you had with an
No, I'm
attorney
not
for
touching
Mr. Dorsey,
now. And this
would
is
that have
spelled the
been
state.
before or after the scheduled meeting at the attorney's office?
That would have been before the scheduled meeting, or not. In all actuality, that phone call or that conversation came immediately after DeKalb County had a search warrant for my home.
Okay, don't go, okay. Do you recall if it would have been before or after the scheduled meeting? That's all I'm asking. I just want a yes or no
This would have
answer,
been.
if you know.
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know?
No, sir.
All right. Your Honor, I don't believe I have any other questions of Mr. Skyers. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, may we approach this 1 second?
Sure.
Mr. Skyers, on December 15th of 2000, did you possess your cellular telephone?
Yes, I did.
Did you give it to anybody else during that evening?
No, sir.
Did you give it to anybody else the early morning hours of Saturday, December 16th of 2000?
No, sir.
And you stated that you used that telephone to communicate with Mr. Cuffey and maybe others that evening of December 15th, 2000.
Yes.
Now, the Ingalls that you were working at until 6:00 p.m. is across the street from the MVP Club, correct?
Yes.
And the MVP Club doesn't share the same side of the street. It's actually on the opposite side of the street. Is that correct or incorrect?
Yes, it's on the opposite side.
Okay. And you left the Ingalls at 6:00 p.m., but you had to take care of a warrant, so you drove to DeKalb County Magistrate Court, correct?
Yes.
And that's about 10-minute drive, 15-minute drive possibly, correct?
Yes.
And then you came back to the Ingalls to show a rookie security guard how to fill out paperwork on a warrant, fair to say?
Took the officer with me and then showed her how to fill out the report, the store report.
Did you go back to the Ingalls after leaving there at 6:00 p.m.?
Yes.
What time did you finish at the Ingalls?
Roughly around 7:30, in time to go to Burger King.
Okay, and when you say 7:30, we're still talking about 7:30 p.m. on the night Derwin Brown was slaughtered.
Yes.
Okay, and were you at the Ingalls at 8:39 p.m. using your cell phone? That same evening?
To the best of my knowledge, no, I was in the car on the way to Burger King.
Well, 8:39, not 7:39.
No.
Okay, and how about 10:20 p.m. on December 15th of 2000? Were you at the Ingalls working?
No, I was at Burger King.
Can you explain, if you can, how your cellular phone was making telephone calls from inside the MVP, or it's parking lot at 10:20 that evening if you're at the Burger King?
That calls for this individual to have some sort of knowledge of cellular phone technology. Plus, I object to the question that has been posed, assuming that it had to have been either the MVP or the parking lot. All we know is it was the geographic area surrounding that particular tower, and we do not know the precise size of that area.
Okay.
I asked him if he can explain. Can he explain?
Do you know?
No.
Now, it's your testimony that you had no idea that Derwin Brown was at the MVP Club earlier on December 15th, 2000. Is that your testimony?
Yes, it is.
And you were never inside that MVP Club that night?
No, I wasn't.
And you were never in its parking lot using your cellular telephone?
No, sir.
Okay, and instead you're at this Burger King at approximately anytime after 7:30 until 11 o'clock that evening.
Approximately 8 o'clock until approximately 10:30 when I left.
Okay, and we're talking about December 15th, 2000.
December 15th, the video cameras in Burger King will show my presence in the store.
Now, do you have those video cameras with you?
No.
Now, the Burger King, there's a lot of Burger Kings around. How far away is the Burger King from the MVP Club?
Burger King from Ingalls is approximately an 8-minute drive. It's on Panola Road.
An exit away on a highway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how far away is the home of Derwin Brown from the MVP Club?
Approximately the same distance.
How many minutes by car?
Roughly about 8 to 10 minutes by car.
And do you aware that there's an Amoco station on Glenwood Road and Covington Highway?
Yes.
And you met Patrick Cuffey at the Amoco station on the evening of December 15th, 2000.
Yes, I did.
And Patrick Cuffey was driving a green 1990 Honda Accord, correct?
Yes, he was.
And you told Agent Kasarich that you met Patrick Cuffey at that Amoco station on Glenwood Road and Covington Highway at approximately 11:30 on December 15th, 2000, right?
No, I didn't.
You didn't tell Detective Kasarich that?
No.
Do you know?
Let me explain to you. I went to Burger King. Within 35 to 40 minutes after that, that's when I met Patrick at the Amoco on the corner of Glenwood and Covington. So if the cell phone is showing that general geographic area, then I had to be in that area because I had to come from Panola Road back up to Covington Highway to Glenwood.
Covington Highway and Glenwood.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you, didn't answer my original question. Did you tell Agent Kasarich that you were with Patrick Cuffey when he was driving the 1990 green Honda at approximately 11:30 p.m. on December 15, 2000? Did you tell him that?
I don't recall.
Now, you mentioned Glenwood Road and Covington Highway. How close is that? The Amoco station on Glenwood Road and Covington Highway. You know where that is, correct?
Yes.
How close is that to the MVP Club?
The MVP's on Wesley Chapel, that's around, 3 miles?
How close is the Amoco station on Covington Highway and Glenwood Road from Derwin Brown's house?
2-3 minutes drive, 3 to 5 minutes drive.
I'd like to talk with you about the gentleman in the back with the white shirt and the dark tie and the silver hair, Agent Lang. You recognize him?
Yes, I do.
And you communicated with Agent Lang on several occasions after your immunity deal on November 29, 2001, correct?
Yes,
And you even had his personal pager number to call him with any issues, questions, or concerns, correct?
yes,
And he can call you and you recognize his number as well, correct?
yes,
And Agent Lang is a person that you trusted with the police. You told him that, correct?
to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And Agent Lang, you knew, would take information from you and write them down or memorialize that information, correct?
But that is his job, yes.
And are you denying that you told Agent Lang that you were present with Patrick Cuffey and Sidney Dorsey when a note was supposedly given that said, "Kill Derwin Brown"?
I was never present. I never told Officer Lang anything of that sort.
Do you deny telling Agent Lang that you, Sidney Dorsey, and Patrick Cuffey ate the note that supposedly stated, "Kill Derwin Brown"?
Yes, repeat the question again.
Do you deny telling Agent John Lang of the GBI that you, Patrick Cuffey, and Sidney Dorsey ate the note that supposedly said, "Kill Derwin Brown"?
No. Me and Patrick Cuffey ate the note. There was no Sidney Dorsey when the note was passed, when the instruction was passed.
So you denied telling Agent Lang that you, Patrick Cuffey, and Sidney Dorsey ate that note on December 1st of 2000.
Ask, answer.
I want to talk with you about the Tech 9 murder weapon. You know what gun I'm talking about?
Yes,
Now, you stated that you purchased on May 4th of 2000 an extractor and extractor screw that were necessary to make the Tech 9 work, correct?
yes,
And at that time, you were living, were you not, at 85 Treeview Lane, apartment number D in Lithonia, Georgia, right?
that is correct.
And you received this extractor and extractor screw in your mailbox at that address.
Yes, I did.
And that happened on May 4th of 2000, and you paid for it with a credit card, right?
Yes,
And you told this jury that you bought that extractor and extractor screw prior to your intention of taking the life of Derwin Brown.
I bought the extractor and extractor screw to repair the weapon for my own personal use. I never said anything about my intentions of killing Derwin Brown with that weapon.
So did you buy the extractor and the extractor screw on May 4th of 2000, knowing that you were going to be a part in taking the life of Derwin Brown?
No,
You deny that.
I did not buy it to take part in any murder. It was for my own personal use.
Do you remember speaking with J. Tom Morgan, John Petrie, Investigator Harvey, your lawyer, Tony Axum, on the 29th day of November of the year 2001?
Yes,
And you were speaking with them under the cloak of immunity, correct?
yes,
And they wanted to know everything that you can tell them about the murder of Derwin Brown, right?
yes,
And you came forward and gave them information, correct?
yes.
And I will show you page 7 and 8. May I approach?
Certainly.
Look at the whole thing. And Mr. Morgan was interested in knowing about the murder weapon, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
And you explained to Mr. Morgan, Mr. Petrie, Investigator Harvey, with your lawyer present, that you needed to do repairs to the Tech 9, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And the reason that you needed repairs is because the gun was going to be used to kill Derwin Brown, right?
No, I needed to repair the gun for my own personal use.
Do you remember telling them that after the election, or being asked after the election, you were looking for a weapon and Patrick asked you for a weapon. Remember that?
Patrick had a problem with coming up with a weapon.
And
It got to the point where they had no weapon, and I volunteered the use of the Tech-9.
And you said, listen, I have a Tech-9 at home. It needs some parts. I can put it back together, right?
Yes,
And you told the investigators, did you not, that it needed a firing pin, it needed an extractor pin, and it had no magazine, correct?
yes, didn't have a magazine.
And then you went on to say that you ordered the parts from Florida, correct?
Yes,
And you told them that without the extractor pin, the gun was not functional, but for only one round at a time, correct?
that's correct.
And you checked around and you called Intertech in Miami. You told them that, right?
Yes,
And you told them that for $5 paid on your Visa credit card, you received the extractor pin or the extractor screw in the extractor, right?
yes,
And you told them that you got the extractor and the extractor pin after being asked for a weapon to kill Derwin Brown, right?
yeah, that's correct.
I couldn't hear you.
That's correct.
And the day that you got that extractor and extractor pin is May 4th of the year 2000, right?
Yes,
Okay.
let me
Now-
elaborate. This extractor pin was purchased on May 4th, like the receipt says. In Chronicle Law order that I gave Mr. Morgan, the breakdown of the weapon is what it needed. The weapon was already functional. It was missing a clip, a magazine.
Okay.
Chronological what? Chronological what?
I'm going to show you transfer pages again. Isn't it true you told District Attorney Morgan that you needed the extractor after the plan to murder Derwin Brown was hatched?
Yes,
And that's what was purchased on May 4th of 2000, according to the receipt.
All right, he is
right?
sexy.
yes,
Isn't it true you told Mr. Morgan you needed the
yes.
extractor screw for the gun that would be used to kill Derwin Brown?
yes,
And isn't it true that that was purchased on May 4th of 2000?
yes,
Now, Mr. SKYERS, with regard, or did you know that the receipt with the Intertech information was found in Mr. Cuffey's home?
no,
Okay, name.
Mr. Cuffey went with you to purchase a silencer, right?
a suppressor, not a silencer, a suppressor.
Okay. To suppress the noise when a projectile comes out of a weapon, right?
Yes,
And that suppressor was also for the to be used to slaughter Derwin Brown, right?
yes,
Now, you mentioned that you have applied for a job with the Dekalb County Sheriff's Office, right?
yes,
And you applied in 1997, right?
yes,
After Sidney Dorsey was elected sheriff of DeKalb County, correct?
yes, I did.
And you didn't get the job, right?
No,
You were rejected, right?
yes,
And you worked on the campaign in 1996 in which Sidney Dorsey landed the job of sheriff in DeKalb County, right?
yes,
You also worked on the campaign in the year 2000, correct?
briefly,
I understand. You put out signs, didn't you?
yes,
You handed out flyers with Patrick Cuffey at times, right?
yes,
And that was in May, June, July, up to August of 2000, right?
yes,
And you remember telling Detective Hunt that during the campaign for the office of sheriff in the year 2000, you asked Sidney Dorsey and he spoke with you about a job for you in the sheriff's department.
Yes, I did.
And that job was to be a civilian employee of the sheriff's department, right?
Yes.
On September 12th of 2000, Patrick Cuffey is arrested and charged with murder of Jeffrey Nigel George, right?
Yes.
And felony murder of Jeffrey Nigel George, correct?
Okay, so
Yes.
the drug
And
thing
kidnapping with serious
and
bodily
murder.
injury, right?
I guess.
Do you know?
No.
2 counts of aggravated assault, do you know?
No.
And Patrick Cuffey, in September 12th of 2000, your brother. That's what you call him, right?
Yes.
You even have your children call him Uncle Pat, right?
That is correct.
And that hasn't just begun in the year 2000. You and Patrick Cuffey have been very close, like brothers, since 1992, right?
That is correct.
Inseparable. People call you bread and butter, right?
That is correct.
And when Patrick Cuffey got arrested, he was housed in jails, correct?
Yes.
And he couldn't get out of jail, right?
That is correct.
And he had to face a trial on murder and felony murder and other charges with Jeffrey Nigel George, right?
That is correct.
Or cut a deal, possibly.
That was Patrick's decision.
I understand. That's what happened, though, right?
Yes, that's what happened.
And while Patrick Cuffey was in custody, but before he cut the deal, you had a lot of contact with him, correct?
Yes, I did.
You spoke with him on the phone once or twice or 3 times a week.
Yes.
And that's for September 12th through the end of September, right?
That is true.
All of the month of October of 2000, right?
Yeah, that is true.
And going into November of 2000, right up to the time that you met with Mr. Morgan on the 29th day of November 2000, correct? 2001, excuse me.
That is true.
And before Patrick Cuffey was arrested, you had a lot of contact with him then as well, right?
Yes.
Before he was arrested on September 12th, you'd speak with him all the time on the telephone, right?
Yes.
You'd meet with him, right?
Yes.
You'd go to his home.
Yes.
And Patrick Cuffey shared with you that while he was a DeKalb County Sheriff deputy in August of 2000, Mr. Morgan told him that if he came forward with evidence against Sidney Dorsey, he would get immunity, right?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Patrick Cuffey never shared that with you.
He shared something of that sort with me about the DA office talking to him.
And the DA's office told Patrick Cuffey that if he came forward with evidence against Sidney Dorsey, he would get immunity. He told you that, right?
Yeah, no, I'm going to object when we approach, I guess.
Yes.
You knew, did you not, that there was a conversation between Patrick Cuffey and J. Tom Morgan concerning Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, Patrick explained that to me.
And Patrick explained to you, did he not, that there was immunity offered with information against Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, but because of Patrick's loyalty to Sidney, he turned it down.
Now, you mentioned that on the 6th day of March of 2001, there's a search warrant executed by the authorities at your home, right?
That is correct.
And they took from you a leather jacket that you were actually wearing on December 15th of 2000, right?
That is correct.
And when I say took from you, they took from your home, right?
That is correct.
And do you remember speaking with the media, Miss Angelique Proctor of Fox 5, after that search warrant was executed at your home on March 6, 2001?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, I did.
And you gave Miss Proctor an interview. You agreed to speak with her, right?
Yes.
And you told Miss Proctor the police have offered you immunity for your involvement in the Derwin Brown murder case if you implicate Sidney Dorsey, right?
That is not true.
What did you tell her?
We had an interview at Patrick's house with Ms. Proctor, but that was not in turn anything being with me meeting with Mr. Morgan or his colleagues.
I'm not talking about Mr. Morgan. Is it true or untrue?
That is untrue.
Let me finish my question.
Go ahead.
Is it true or untrue that you told Miss Angelique Proctor in March 6 of 2001 that the police have offered you immunity for your involvement in the murder of Derwin Brown if you implicate Sidney Dorsey?
That is not true.
You never told her that?
No.
Did you tell Ms. Proctor that you were promised reward money if you implicated Sidney Dorsey in the murder of Derwin Brown?
During the investigation, questions were asked, offers were made, but none was taken.
Maybe I misstated it, sir.
Please rephrase.
Yes, sir. I'm not talking about November 29th, 2001. I'm talking about March 2001, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
6 months earlier than you got immunity from Mr. Morgan, okay?
Or if you're referring to the interview, as I said again, that Sidney Dorsey and Patrick Cuffey says, go ahead and give Ms. Proctor an interview. We sat at Patrick Cuffey's house. I told her the treatment the police department was given. I told her about, yes, they said, well, about the reward money, but never anything about implicating Mr. Dorsey. At that time, we were still trying to protect him for the order he gave.
Did the police ever offer you immunity for your involvement in the murder of Derwin Brown?
As I said, offers were made and none were taken.
I asked you if you took it at that time. Just let me finish, okay? In February, March 2001, did the police tell you that you would receive immunity for prosecution for your involvement in the murder of Derwin Brown if you implicated Sidney Dorsey? That's my question.
No.
They didn't. Your Honor, I'd like to play Mr. SKYERS' videotape on the TV.
All right, now folks, you can't just hold up a tape in front of a jury and say, I want to play Angelique Proctor's interview with Mr. SKYERS, all right? If y'all have come to some agreement, I need to know that, okay? There are procedures
We
that
might
need
go
to be
about
followed.
15, 20 minutes over. So
If
we
there
can
are
finish
portions
part
of the tape,
okay?
I mean, if it's your typical news media tape, and sorry for any insult taken or received by the news media, you know, there's commentary, there's interview blips. I mean, what have we got on this tape?
Ms. Proctor, Mr. SKYERS. Ms. Proctor then says, Mr. SKYERS told me that he was offered immunity, witness protection, and reward money if he implicates Sidney Dorsey.
That's her comment?
I have spoken with Mr. Morgan before the trial. We both tried to accommodate Ms. Proctor. No one wanted her to make her witness. I had her on my witness list. My understanding was we can get into it. Mr. Morgan, I will leave it with him. If he wants me to call Ms. Proctor, She's fine. I will call her. It's on the tape. I'll do whatever you want. I'll stipulate to it.
I want to understand, since I haven't viewed the tape, this is a comment Ms. Proctor makes after an interview with Mr. Skyers?
She states specifically, Mr. Skyers has told me, that's right, it's Ms. Proctor speaking. Mr. Skyers told me the police have offered him immunity for his involvement in the murder of Derwin Brown. If he implicates Sidney Dorsey, they've offered me witness protection and reward money.
Does she make this statement in the presence of Mr. Skyers?
You can ask her. She's here in this building.
No, I'm saying from the tape. Again, I haven't seen the tape.
I don't know. I'm not going to say that. It's hard. No, I'm not going
Gentlemen,
to say that.
if you'll explain this to me, please.
Your Honor, I told Mr. Steele I have no objection, just as we did in the other video, of stipulating as to a foundation on the tape where it is a question answer. We both agreed that there's no editorializing that can be played, such as in Mr. Cardwell regarding Mr. Murray. Ms. Proctor has been here. I have no objection regarding brutal sequestration that they called her to impeach him just as any other witness. We do object to any editorializing on any tape, just as in the Mr. Murray tape, we did not play any editorializing.
This is not editorializing. It's not like Mr. Cardwell when he stated, what if I'm a Dekalb County
I
taxpayer?
tell you what, we'll short circuit it. Let me see the tape. How long is it?
It's seconds.
Then let me see the tape and I'll decide whether it's editorial comment or whether it's part of the process.
Damn, that's a big ass screen.
From Jamaica says investigators treated him horribly in first a 13-hour interview, then a separate 10-hour session. He accuses him of stereotyping islanders, offering him immunity and participation in the witness protection plan, plus the reward money, which he said was at $71,000 if he'd implicate Dorsey and or Cuffy.
The question I answered, started to get tired, then they started to threaten, and the racial slurs came out.
Then we have
That's for editorializing. That's not his response. That's inappropriate. If you want to get into it, call her.
The judge sick of them.
Now, do you intend to use the tape on the non-editorial component of it?
Just with Ms. Proctor.
All right. I will tell them that they are not going to be viewing a tape with this witness because now they think there's a tape that they're going to see.
And I have released Ms. Proctor from my, and I never subpoenaed her based upon our conversation, so she can still do her job, but she will be a witness now, and I'd ask the court to make that known to her.
And there's no objection from the state, as I understand it, in that regard.
Okay.
All right. Can we bring them back in?
Yes.
All right. Please, if you have anything else, before you make any kind of statement in front of the jury, don't do that. At least include me in the loop of the agreement so I know what's going on. Okay? I'd appreciate it. Bring them back.
Sorry for the technical stuff, but because I'm playing it from a website, the Court TV website, it's giving me difficulties. Don't think I'm always back here doing something. But it seemed like even if I just touch it to highlight y'all comments or something, or to type, it mess up. But, and it's better for us to go ahead and finish watching this part one, because it's going to be real hard for me to get to this part. Oh, we might be finished. Let me see. Hold on. I don't know if y'all can hear me, but hold on. Let me see. I think by the timeline on that screen, this might be the end of that part. Hold on. I hope y'all can hear me. Let me put my hands up. Everything frozen. Let me stop. Yeah, I think I think it's at the end of that first part because it's trying to switch over. Hold on. I don't know. Let me see if y'all can hear me. I can't see the comments. Let me go on my phone. Let me go on my phone. Okay, so y'all can hear me. Okay, so I think that is absolutely what's happening. It's trying to switch over so I can stop it as soon as I get unfrozen. However, I'll go ahead and take this moment to say, you know, this. So we got the first part, right? So we're gonna see what they have to offer tomorrow night. We will be here tomorrow night. Even though it's Valentine's, we'll be here. And we'll watch the second part, and then we're gonna get into the shooter and them. I left Paul Cuffey. I'm gonna make him for next week because I think his testimony gonna be real good, and we don't want to have no breaks in between it. Okay. Damn, it's really still stuck, but y'all can hear me. Dang, child. So it's turning out to be a real good trial. It's just a lot of moving parts. I gotta figure out. I'm gonna try to see if that maybe they got a timeline and everything on the internet. But if not, I might take another look at the Tamara Hall episode because it was real good, and I might go ahead and take the time out and get a timeline because that would help. You know, dang, I might have to come on my phone and end the live. Because my computer thing is really stuck. Okay, so thank y'all for joining. This is the end of part 1 for Paul SKYERS. I'm about to go eat this good old seafood baked potato my son blessed me with and made. Okay, y'all have a great evening, and I shall see y'all. That's why I was gonna vote. I was gonna see did y'all want. Okay, wait a minute. Before y'all leave, drop. Do y'all want to come and y'all want to skip tomorrow night because it's Valentine's? Wait a minute, wait before y'all leave. Do a lot of y'all have Valentine's plans? Or what? I don't have no Valentine's night plan. I had my Valentine's earlier today. Okay, so we're gonna skip tomorrow night. Okay. You available, lady self? I usually don't do Friday. Oh, tomorrow Friday. Yeah, I don't do Friday nights anyway. Okay, y'all. Okay, we're gonna skip and we're gonna reconvene on Monday night. Okay. I'll throw it off because I did my Valentine's earlier today. You know, hold on. Okay, it's unfreezing now. I'll be able to come on here. See, this is the part for tomorrow night. I mean, oh Lord, I'm all confused, y'all. I'm all confused. It's gonna be okay though. Okay, so we're gonna be so I'll be on tomorrow. I won't be on tomorrow night unless I'm on the other side. Court will reconvene on Monday night, which means I will have time to develop a timeline for us. Okay, so that's gonna be on my things to do to get us a timeline. Court is now adjourned. Y'all have a great weekend. If I don't see y'all again till then, okay? All right. For if you know, I'll see you on the other side tomorrow. Bye. Court is adjourned. Froze again. Okay, Lord help me. Let me see. Oh, sweet YouTube Jesus, I'm froze with my double chin showing. I'm stuck. Child, my computer, I can't wait to get a new computer. I swear. Y'all pray for me a new computer.
Thanks for watching. Do not forget click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Like, comment and share. See you next time.